All right. Good morning. Don't roll your eyes at me, Jen. Everyone, um, welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching, and with us, pretty much always, is our marketing director and one of our other coaches, one of our social media coaches, Jen Wayboer. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning, Adam.
And we've got a really cool guest for you guys this morning. Somebody local to us here in Colorado, coming out of Colorado Springs, in fact, which we're really pretty stoked about. Ramona Williams. Good morning, Ramona.
Good morning.
So, Ramona, I don't know how many episodes of the podcast you've listened to, or if you've seen this video cast, but I certainly want to give you a little bit of background just to kind of ease into it. A lot of what we're doing here is giving our audience an opportunity to to ask questions of a top producer of sorts. And we do have a pretty heavy vetting process. We've been watching you for quite some time before we extend an invitation to be on the podcast, and that's true of most of our guests. So we know that you're doing good work. Our audience knows that you're doing good work. So they really want to know a little bit about you when it comes to background, when you got into real estate, how you got into real estate, and then obviously Just the Tips focuses mostly on lead generation, contact management, social media, video work, these kinds of things. So we'd kind of like to hear from you as far as a timeline of what that looked like for you when you started, as it developed, what you do now, where your business comes from, and let's go from there.
Okay, sounds good. So I'm a military spouse. My husband is Air
What's
Force.
that look like?
We ended up moving here. I have a psychology degree. And so I was utilizing my psychology degree before I moved to Colorado. When we got here, I got tired of, I would say, changing careers so much because we moved so much. So I decided to get into real estate. We jumped into real estate. It's been 15 years now that I've been doing real estate. And I would say the first 5 years of my life in real estate, I didn't do a whole lot of business. I was mainly focused on my kids. Then after that, I jumped on a team and started doing a lot more real estate and learning the business and learning what it takes to do real estate. And that's pretty plain and simple. So I've done everything. I've flipped houses. I've owned my own brokerage. I have a team right now that I'm working with, but I've done everything.
Everything.
Well,
Okay. And how did that develop over time? I mean, what did this look like for you, 5 years ago and 10 years ago?
yeah, so like I said, when I first did real estate, my first 5 years, I did maybe a handful of deals. And I didn't realize that you needed so much training. You needed to get in with the companies that you were and really utilize their trainings. Then I jumped on a team and they trained me a lot on what it takes to do real estate, cold calling. I mean, cold calling is the name of the game. It really is. And so we did a lot of that. And after I was successful on the team and I realized what I needed to do, then I went and opened up my own brokerage. I actually bought out a brokerage and just continued with their brokerage with another partner. We did rentals, we did real estate, we did everything like that. And then after that was done, I was in an accident. I went back to my old brokerage, and then I was in a really bad accident to where I couldn't really do a whole lot of real estate myself. So I started a team because real estate was still coming in. I just couldn't do it. So then at that point, that's when I started my team, Springs Home Team, and then that's what we do today.
And let me ask you, I know currently this team is a Keller Williams operation. And has that always been the case? Have you always been with Keller?
I started out with Keller. I've been in and out of Keller Williams and keep coming back to Keller Williams just because their training and everything they offer is huge.
Yeah.
especially for those new agents and new agents jumping on our team. It's very, very important that they get the training that they need. And I felt like Keller Williams is where I received all of that training. So, yep.
Yeah, we can't argue with that. We see a lot of good training coming out of it. Obviously, the things you're talking about, particularly like cold calling, and I'm assuming we're talking about FSBOs, expireds, which is the Keller Williams 101 kind of stuff. And we have agents in our we have agents in our coaching program that love it. We have agents that have been through our coaching program and hate it. It's obviously about your mindset, about your mentality. Do you like cold calling? Are you better with the video than you are with the phone? Are you better with the phone than you are with social media? These kinds of things. But yeah, there is no question, I would say, that through all the different experiences Jen and I have been through, all the different real estate agent coaching clients that we've worked with, I would say the majority of high volume, high content, new agent training probably comes from Keller. What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I would say so. I
Yeah.
agree with that.
And I would say that that's kind of their MO. We do come across agents who also say it's so much training that that's all they do is train, and they don't actually have time to go out and practice real estate too. So yeah,
You definitely could do that. It definitely is a lot of training, so you have to make sure that you're balancing it out.
For
yeah,
sure.
true story. No question. That is just good advice for everybody watching live or in syndication, or for those of you listening to our podcast. Yeah, absolutely good advice. So, Ramona, what does it look like today? What's your team structure? What kinds of activity are they doing? What kind of lead gen work are they doing? And are you just kind of managing it, or are you active in real estate as well?
I'm still active in real estate, and because of COVID, things have changed a lot, right? We've had to change everything the way we do stuff. So our leads right now are mainly Facebook leads, which take a lot of time to mature. We do a lot of focusing on the neighborhoods and areas as far as establishing audiences in Facebook. We're trying to get into Google and YouTube ads. It's a little harder to make those ads work a little bit more. But our main focus is past clients, sphere, cold calling. We are not doing door knocking because it's not really allowed. However, we are dropping things off on doors. So we are going around that way. We are available to do open houses. We all know how the market is. So if you can actually have an open house before the house goes under contract, we try to do that. We do a lot of video, tons of video, just because we've got to showcase those houses in a way to where everyone is interested in it. We do coming soon. The MLS has really limited our capacity on how we do coming soons. So we only have 7 days to do a coming soon before we can put it in the MLS. I used to like to do coming soons a lot sooner, just so we can get the buyers really interested, do some open houses, and then get that. But everything has changed. I mean, we've had to change with COVID, and everyone's changed. I mean, the MLS has changed, we've changed, marketing's changed, everything.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of truth to that. Change is good. I don't think we would be denying that being involved in real estate or mortgage lending or really any direct-to-consumer high-ticket item sales gig is a stagnant operation. It's very dynamic. So this is certainly a little more change in one short period than we're used to. But for those of you watching or listening, you've got to be malleable. You've got to be willing to accept that this is dynamic. It is going to change. You have to change along with it. I constantly reference how the guys that were stagnant, heavy on FSBOs, not FSBOs, excuse me, short sales, REOs, bank owned, those kinds of things. if they weren't willing to change with the times, then, they're working on new scripts right now. Of course, that would be, would you like fries with that? Because, this is, it is a very, very dynamic industry. And boy, real estate is, even without the pandemic, let's put the pandemic aside for a moment, although it brought on so much change, so many dramatic changes to all of these industries. But right now, the housing world, the real estate world, the housing market is so loony toony that none of us can get our heads around it anyway. And we're heavily embedded in it, 40, 50, 60 hours a week after week, year after year for, oh my gosh, my team and I on the mortgage side, probably a combined 150 years of watching this, and we've never seen anything like this. So yeah, even if it weren't for the pandemic throwing a wrench in the works, we've got to be malleable. We've got to be dynamic because, standing still makes you a dead duck, right? In real estate, in mortgages, and sales in general, I would think. And we're not selling vacuums door to door anymore, for example. So yeah, that's a big, big deal. So what kind of things would you really point out that you've seen a good amount of success in for your team? And I'm hoping there are a few people on your team that don't have your experience and longevity, that there are a couple of newer, fresher faces and bodies. What kind of things are you seeing for newer agents that are going to lend success to their lead gen activities? Because that's, the bottom line right now is that we've got to be finding buyers and sellers, hopefully more sellers, because there are plenty of buyers. I think we're talking about a 40-to-1 or 50-to-1 ratio in the Denver metro area right now. I'm assuming Colorado Springs is similar. Put a house on the market and 50 people want to go look at it. But what would you give our newer agents in our audience, as words of wisdom? Where should they be focusing their efforts and energies?
So I think that what you need to do is you need to put yourself out there. You need to not be afraid to talk to everyone you know, everyone you meet, and let them know that you are a real estate agent. Even in the groups of Facebook that you're in, let people know, make people aware of what you can do, and educate. The more you educate the audience, the more they trust you, the more they're going to utilize you or ask questions. Once they start asking questions, you're able to switch them into becoming from a friend to becoming a client. I feel like a lot of my newer agents, it's social media. They're on social media, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook. They are talking a lot to people in those groups, like military spouses groups, Colorado Springs for sale groups, rental groups. All of those groups are going out there and they're putting themselves out there. They're making sure that they're educating the community. It's not necessarily, hey, I'm a real estate agent, use me, use me, use me. It's more of a, hey, this is your question, here's what you should do. And having that conversation with them, it's not necessarily just like, please use me, use me. Although, I'm going to tell you right now, with your friends and family, you need to keep telling them that you are a real estate agent, because a lot of times they forget and then they go use someone else, and that does cause some issues. But yeah, just making sure that you're out there and you're telling everybody constantly that you're a real estate agent and how you can help them. What makes you different from every other real estate agent out there? You have to have that elevator speech.
Wow. Okay. This is a lot of good stuff here. One, Jen, I want to make sure that we all know that Ramona's directing that at Duncan.
Right.
Okay. Little joke there. One of our coaching clients is reluctant, to say the least, about that particular part of the process. But yes, making sure that everybody knows all the time what you do. Now, obviously, in your interactions, in your lead gen work, you should be focusing on the who you are. You want to attract people that you would want to work with, repel the ones that you don't, those kinds of things. But every one of those interactions, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's social media, video, working the phone, whatever, there's always got to be that pseudo call to action. hey, this is what I do, or hey, I am asking for the business, or whatever the case may be. And I think one of the most important pieces that Ramona is hitting on here is that you've got to stay top of mind. So, for example, Jen's marketing work, my work at our mortgage company, we touch roughly 15,000 contact database, 15,000 people in our contact database. And guys, I know that number sounds insane. It's been like 25 years. Trust me, you're going to get there if you focus on the fact that building a contact database, building that audience is an everyday activity for the remainder of your career. If you're working at it all the time, it does come. But we try to touch all 15,000 of those people 40 times a year. That number also seems insane, but between social media and birthday campaigns and blog posts and the emails going out and HomeBot, there's a nice plug for HomeBot. They reach out to our entire client database once a month for us. Actually, with a little bit of extra work, we're using HomeBot to reach out 3 times a month, I guess, in reality. So that 40 number might be a little conservative, but in addition to constantly making sure that everybody you know knows what you do, you've got to continue to remain top of mind. Now, Ramona mentioned something that makes for a lot of chaos and uncomfortable situations where your cousin used somebody else to sell their home. Whoops! That creates all kinds of friction, not just for the fact that you didn't get the deal, although that's certainly a big deal, but had that person, so if you are that person where your friend, your relative, use somebody else for their real estate needs, that is solely your fault. Either you shouldn't be working with them in the first place, and those are going to be a few cases, but you did not continue to stay top of mind with these people. Now, it's not just about making sure that they use you for their real estate needs, but they're going to have a conversation in 2 weeks with somebody else who wants to buy or sell a home, or with an employee, or an employer, or a coworker, or whatever the case may be. So it's not just about making sure that you are top of mind with the people that you want using you to buy and sell homes, but you need to make sure that you're top of mind with all of those people, because they're going to have conversations about buying and selling homes with other people that could easily be in your audience, in your contact database, in your client list as future buyers and sellers, and then convert those people into advocates that are going to refer you more people because they're having conversations. Oh, I just bought a house. Oh, really? Who is your agent? This woman Ramona, she was amazing. Boom. This is the kind of thing that breeds that snowball effect of a repeat and referral business. So, yeah, Ramona, speaking volumes to our audience in these little quips and comments. I just don't want your information, your education, your experience to go unheard. I want to re-emphasize some of that stuff. So, Ramona, we do this every week in recent times, and I don't want to be dark and be the harbinger of doom and so on and so forth. And I know that Colorado Springs is experiencing a similar real estate market to the Denver metro area, which is posing a real problem. Obviously, we've got 50 buyers for every seller. Right now, we're at less than 10% of what would be considered a healthy inventory, a 6-month inventory. I know that kind of thing is occurring down there as well. What are your foresights? What are your insights? What kind of, predictions can you make for your market for what this is going to look like in years to come? We're not going to solve a housing shortage overnight. We're not building fast enough. The builders are struggling to make money as it is. Land is expensive. The cost of materials is way up. The cost of labor is way up. We can't rely on the builders. Even the ones that built apartment buildings that we could eventually condominiumize, because rent's a cash cow right now. I'm not selling my apartment building. So what do we do? How do we solve this? What does it look like in 10 years when the average single family home in Colorado is $1 million, and the people that are aging into the buying process in that time need $250,000 down and $250,000 in household income to sustain the remainder of the debt? What are we going to be looking at over the next decade? What do you think?
Yeah, it's crazy. If our market continues to keep going the way it is, which economists are saying right now that it's going to flatten out eventually. And then we also are going to look at some, all these people have put themselves into forbearance, right? and what's going to happen when those come due. And it really is going to be focused on what is our administration right now going to do. Because right now they have buyer programs that they're talking about, but how is that really going to help our low inventory? If we just put 100,000 more buyers out there, that's not going to do any good with our low inventory. So we really need to start thinking about how are we going to get builders building more? How are we going to get more land? I mean, land in Colorado Springs is hard to find. We're going out east. I mean, Callahan's going to be the next Colorado Springs, right? Because that's where the land is. Or Castle Rock, Monument are going to be attached to each other because that's where the land is. So I see us in 10 years, I don't see Colorado Springs ever going through what we went through, what was it, 5-8 years ago? I don't see us getting to that point at all. I do, however, see us, we're crazy. The prices are crazy right now. And I do see them going up still, but with that, the cost of living has to go up. Everything has to adjust to that, or we will crash. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. I hope that we won't crash. I hope, what the economists are saying, that we're going to level out at one point or another, and they're calling for that in the next 3 to 5 years. So hopefully that's what we see coming, but in the this year, next year, I don't see it happening at all. We have so many people moving into our market, so many people moving we have a lot of cash. A lot of people moving into Colorado Springs with cash in hand. So selling those $1 million properties in California or wherever they're moving from and coming here and paying cash for a larger home, one home that they can survive in. However, I've also seen people move here and they can't handle the weather. So they're also moving out again too. So we'll see a lot of movement. I mean, we always see a lot of movement in Colorado Springs because of the 5 military bases. But I think we're going to see a lot more movement of people just making that split decision. Colorado is the place to be because we're named in so many the best places to live. But it's not. I mean, it's a great place to live. It's not for everybody. And so they throw their money in, buy a house. Some people love it, some people don't love it. But I feel like there's a lot of things that play in this on what's going to happen with our economy, and it all starts with administration.
Let's certainly back up just a hair and give everybody in our audience a frame of reference that there are some outside factors that are going to skew market to market. Ramona's, for example, does have a heavy military population. For those of you familiar either with the military bases or with Colorado, Colorado Springs obviously has a multitude of that kind of activity. Fort Carson obviously being very big. The Air Force Academy is there. There's a lot of that sort of thing that does change a lot of things. It drives up demand. It increases a little bit of turnover. But yeah, housing shortage is still rampant there, as it is in every major metropolitan area right now. So yeah, that is very, very true. I certainly hope the economists, or whichever ones you're lending an ear to, are right. I would love to see a way for us to curb this some in 3 to 5 years. Unfortunately, I don't see that myself. I am certainly not going to claim to be an economist. Don't let my namesake fool you, everybody. I am not the same Adam Smith who wrote an inquiry into the nature and causes of the wealth of nations. I would be hundreds of years old at this point if that were the case. And yes, I know I look like shit, but I'm not hundreds of years old. But it is literally just a namesake. But gosh, I don't know. I just cannot see us going, and Denver's a great example. We've got we've got 7 metro counties, roughly a 2,500 inventory right now, 2,500 unit residential inventory, and a 6-month inventory for us, a balanced market for us, is about 30,000. So I don't know how I guess we could level it off in that time frame, but certainly not solve it. Although, boy, I'm not sure leveling off at 2,500 units for sale where we need 30,000 to be healthy is a level I want to be at. But we'll certainly see how the rest of this goes. But Ramona, you bring up a really interesting point. Nothing is keeping pace with this. Nothing else involved in the cost of living, heat, food, gas, groceries, etc. And we've been staving off inflation for so long that, boy, if we level off, if we're actually able to mesh these two things where debts and investments kind of blend and behave in a normal manner, real estate might get real expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the scary part right now is, I mean, it's already pretty expensive. And, and like you said, we have a high military status here. And even with their BAH, their basic housing allowance, sometimes they can't afford to even purchase a house right now. It's really hard for them, let alone rent. I mean, rent is so sky high too. So something's got to change. It really does.
Wow. Yeah, and here we are again with an issue that's going to take a room full of people much smarter than I am to figure out. Because it's fun and it's interesting and it's exciting right now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But continuing on this trend, even for just as long as we've been on this trend, another 5 or 10 years on top of the 5 or 10 years that we've been doing this, things could get scary. I'm concerned, to say the least. All right, so for Ramona, for everybody in our audience, and we do get quite a bit of consumerism that way, give us some highlights on how people in our audience can reach you.
So our website is viewallhomesnow.com. You can absolutely go out there and take a look at some houses, that type of thing. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We do a lot of conversations over Zoom. And our number is 719-244-2333.
Okay. And I assume if we do have people in our audience that are equally interested in being in real estate, being a part of your team, being with Keller Williams, that's the same contact information, and you'd probably enjoy having those conversations as well.
Exactly. I'd love to talk to people who are thinking about starting real estate, want to join a team, just receive their license. What should they do? Because it's a hard process to get into real estate, but if you join the right team or the right company, you will learn to succeed.
Yeah, that's certainly very true. All right, Jen, give us some highlights about that text code scrolling across the bottom of our video cast.
Yeah, if you text TIPS to 63566 for those that are listening to the podcast, you will get all kinds of information about us. You can get past episodes of the show, our current weekly tip, along with some past ones. You can buy Adam's book, Just the Tips, information about the Mile High Mastermind, which, fingers crossed, last weekend of September. We're starting to pull all of that together. Links directly to the podcast on both Spotify and Apple, and you can book a free hour of lead generation coaching with us.
Cool.
All kinds of stuff.
All kinds of good stuff. Yeah, we're pumping out a lot of content through that text code. Well, Ramona, thank you for doing this. I know taking time out on a Monday morning with the current state of the market, and like a year in advance, I know we book these way in advance, is not easy to do. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it is our pleasure, I assure you. All right, well, Jen, Ramona, don't go anywhere. I'm going to sign off here and run our extra. For the rest of you watching or listening, live or in syndication, thank you so much for doing so. And certainly don't hesitate to use that text code Jen was describing to get all kinds of content about us and to certainly figure out how to reach out to us in order to get that information. And you guys have a good week. We'll see you next Monday.